Well, I think back to this idea of mastering a system and developing a system for yourself so that you're really working smart and not hard. And I, in my undergraduate, finally figured out the system. Once I started thinking of university as a place that I could really understand the rules and the expectations, you can work within those rules and expectations. And so what I did when I was preparing for exams is I would play the what would Dr. Riddell ask me? What kinds of things has she been talking about throughout the semester? What does she keep underlining? And I would anticipate all of the questions and I would set up these mock exams and then I would write them. I would literally give myself 3 hours. I'd time myself. I wouldn't take breaks. I'd set it up just as it was an exam scenario and I would write it, and at the end of the 3 hours I would mark myself and I'd go, oh, I only got a 76. What in the world? I'm going to do another one. And I would do them over and over and over again. And so by the time I got into the exam, I was just showing off. I was just showing off all of the knowledge that I had synthesized, analyzed, and digested in that process. So there are a number of different tricks, and every student has their own system, right? So what works for me doesn't work for somebody else and works for another person, and that's just getting to know yourself, and you're going to discover yourself. You're going to discover your academic persona. You're going to discover your social persona. You're going to be exposed to things that you didn't realize were even there. And so it's really working out a system based on also working out who you are as you develop in university.
Is that exam writing is a skill, and the more you practice, the better you will get at it. In exams, you will often be asked to explain concepts, and that is also something you can practice on, explaining concepts. And for me, a good explanation consists of 3 elements. 1, definition. 2, theoretical context. 3, empirical context. To define a concept means that you supply an accurate description of it. To provide a theoretical context means that you relate it to other relevant theoretical concepts. Empirical context means that you are placing your concept in time and space. I think when it comes to exams, it's important to plan your answer. Sometimes I think you have all the elements in a paper, but since you did not organize your thoughts before you started writing, the presentation and the answer is just not that good, although you have all the elements. So I think it's very wise to plan your answer, plan it before you start writing. I think you can get many extra points by having a well-organized answer.
See this time and time again, and a lot of it, I teach intro courses and then compulsory theory courses. So I get students coming just from high school, or Sage Up even here, and then students taking a very tough theory course, which is one of the hardest ones they take. And I stress the same thing in each course, is that if you just try to memorize everything, you're dead. Essentially, there's too much in a university level course to just sit back and try to memorize. And so what my tip is always to do is to work not on memorizing, but trying to actually understand the material. And that takes everything to a different level. And one of the ways, I guess the way that I could set it up for understanding is, look, I don't speak Greek at all. But if you gave me a list of 10 or 15 Greek words, I could memorize them, but I won't understand anything about them. And I can spit them out, but in probably a couple of weeks, it's all gone, and I didn't learn anything in the process. Right? Don't treat your courses like a list of words from a language you don't speak. Right? Yeah, you can memorize them, you can probably come into the exam and maybe pass, but it accomplishes nothing. So understanding takes you to that next level where instead of just sitting back and memorizing things, you can actually pull pieces together. Right? So you can ask yourself questions like, well, okay, why did we start here and end up here? Or how did we do that? What does the stuff we did in week 3 tell us about the things we learned in week 1? And it's through this process of working the material and bringing it together yourself that you take that step, and not only will you do much better in your courses, but you actually learn something throughout your degree, which is kind of the point of being here.
The idea that you can just memorize material. I really am not a big fan of memorizing. You really have to understand the material well. And so when you are solving a problem, you're going from A to B and maybe changing a tax rate or some policy and find out exactly how that it'll influence the economy. You can't memorize that. The economy is constantly changing, so you have to really develop the skills of problem solving. And so if you approach things from a memorizing point of view, you're going to maybe forget in a situation like an exam situation, and then you won't be able to fall back on your understanding of the material, and you might be writing answers that really don't make sense, and you should be aware that they don't make sense, but you have no problem-solving skill to fall back on. So I really encourage people to learn to think through problems instead of just memorizing.
I think as I'm marking my exams, I see that a lot of students don't read the questions. It seems like a simple thing. You read the question and you answer the question, but students often read the question and then they sort of convert it into the question that they wish it had been. And so they answer a question in their head instead of answering the question that I've set. So especially with multiple choice, what I tell my students to do is read the question, don't look at the answers, and actually write out a short answer that answers the question. And then you look at the answers and you see which of the multiple choice selections best matches your short answer. Because if students just look right at the answers, they're going to see something with a few of the right keywords in it and they're going to circle it. But we're all kind of a little bit tricky and we like to insert the keywords in a wrong answer. So maybe instead of saying increase, it'll say decrease. But students just, it's sort of like a Pavlovian response. They see the word they're looking at and they circle the answer. So I guess that's my biggest suggestion for, just having to answer a multiple choice exam.
The thing that always did me really well through my degree was the mnemonic. So in psych, a lot of the time there's many different theories or parts of a theory, and one of the most difficult things is integrating all of that. There's never one answer. You can never say people do this purely because of that. There is usually maybe 6 or 7 different reasons why they might do it. So a lot of the time your psych profs are presenting kind of information that is list-like to you, where there's this theory, there's that theory, and what saved me through my degree was making up a funny mnemonic that I could remember the first letter of every part of the theory. So even today I can actually, and I was at university in the mid-1990s and I can still remember some of the ones that I made. So you go into your exam and you quickly jot down these are the first letters of these, the 7 theories, and you're good to go. You remember instantly what you're supposed to be talking about. Another funny thing from research findings that intro psych students are always told is that you remember things better in the place that you learned them. So we found through research that this is the case. So you have an exam in a specific room, I don't know, see if you can go in there when there's nobody else there and learn it there, because you will remember it better when you come to your test because you've learned it in the same place. You have to go to the big exam halls or whatever to do your exam. You're not directly looking at where your prof was standing in front of you. So picture that room that you were in, picture that person talking. If you are in that horrible part of an exam where you're stressing out and something just goes clean out of your mind, then use visuals to get back to where you were, when you learned it, and that should hopefully jolt your memory back to what it is you're